Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Rise of the Immortals trophy with me, your host, Guile. And if you're slightly surprised to see that we're still in the group stages, don't worry, that makes two of us. The deadline is supposed to be today, and there are still at least 3 more matches to be played, and unfortunately they are crucial matches. They will decide who qualifies in the groups and where, except for Pool 3, of course, who have managed to get all of their matches done, so well done to them. And of course it is difficult. We're talking about people from all over the world in different time zones. They all have jobs. Trying to find time to get at least an hour free to play these matches is tricky. But obviously it's up to the discretion of Luzon, Voodoo and Kurtcher. If they get another extension, they're the tournament directors. It would be a shame if they don't get to play their matches, because you would kind of feel it would invalidate some of the qualification for the knockout section. But like I say, the tournament does have to progress, so we hope that all of the action does get completed so we can bring it to you. But my fellow casters and I will do our very best to do that as and when it happens. Meanwhile, for now, this was a game that was played a little bit earlier, and this will bring us up to date. It was either end of last week or beginning of this week. It's a Pool 1 round 3 match between Arma and Isen and Deathlys Rage. Let's see how they get on. So it's taking a look at the locations. Up here for Arma and Isen, we've got Armageddon. He is rocking the Seraphim, as he likes to do. His teammate is going to be Isen, going under the name Guard, and it took me a while to understand why. I said to Brainfart the other day, why is Isen playing under the name Guard? He said, put those two together. I was like, oh yeah. So feel free to type in the comment section below if you were as stupid as I was. Down here we've got Black Death, and he's rocking the UEF in Breast Cancer Awareness pink. And over here on the right, his teammate Crazed Chariot rocking Cybrin, which I love, because so far in this tournament it really has felt a little bit like the Seraphim UEF show. Haven't had enough Aeon or Cybrin love, so every time I see people rocking those races, get a little bit excited. The map, incidentally, I've had loads of people in the comment section asking, what is this map? It is always visible. If the resolution is high enough on the video, you guys should be able to see it's always visible at the top right. So you should be able to glean all the information you need from it. Just under the game speed slider, it'll say map, and you can see there it is, Crazy Rush. And you got to love this map. You got to love this tournament, the fact that they get this map. Obviously, the mass is not an issue. It's more like a mod, really, than a map. It's every time you get a mass point building, it's scripted to release the surrounding mass points around it. So mass basically isn't a problem. Your bottlenecking resource is much more likely to be power, and that's why these guys spam so heavily on the power. You see at the beginning of the game, mass T1 lines coming up, because it really is going to be your bottlenecking resource. And that's what you got to love about this tournament. I mean, the fact that it really is testing these guys. I know I've said it multiple times in previous casts, but it's testing these guys. It's testing every facet of the game. It's not just 1v1 on Theatre Passage, which everybody, to be honest, is a little bored of watching. It's showing the team aspect, the 2v2, the solo aspect, the 1v1, crazy maps like this where it's not even, you can't set preset orders and what have you. You've got to have different builds. You've got to do a little bit of practice beforehand to get an idea of how you're going to play as a team, how you're best going to make your economy run, all of that kind of stuff. So, huge fan of this tournament. Well done to the Crazy Germans for thinking this one up. Loving it so far. And you see early combat scouts out for Arma and Isen. And these are a very underrated unit, I've got to say. The fact that they can cloak, it gives you so much forward intel, and they just can sit there with basic impunity. There's nothing they can do. See, Black Death would have been enraged of seeing that, but completely invisible thanks to the personal stealth field that he's got. So, huge fan of those. And you can see Arma's not being stingy with them either. He's pumping lots and lots of them out. Air Factory going up for Isen. That looks like the first one on the map. Can't see any others. Indeed it is. So the only person going so far, actually Arma's got one queued up as well. Now he's just started building it, as you can see. So Arma and Isen looking to take the air initiative. Little skirt around there, just from Arma's troops, picking up forward combat scouts, making sure that they have all of the advantage when it comes to intel. And look at the amount of information that's giving them. Of course, they've got a slight radar field as well. Take a look at that. So really does give them excellent early game coverage, and there's basically very little you can do to stop that in the early game. That's why on a map like this, Seraphim is indeed a hot choice. It's interesting to see that only one player in this match has decided to go for it. It's quite a nasty little group of strikers now building up for Black Death on the left. You can see how close this match is going to be between the rankings. It's there very little to choose between them. So I mean, this whole group, in fact, this pool 1 is a pretty brutal group. So it's going to be interesting to see where we're at with the qualification on it. I do hope all those games get played. And Arma not going for just direct fire units. He's got THAMs in there, but he's also got some mobile light artillery. He's got the artillery lined up behind the THAMs, which is nice. So he's going to be getting kills even when he's pulling out of range. You can see 2 or 3 strikers going down there just on the retreat. And pretty significant force of Mantis now for Kray's Chariot. Trying to get a run by on the forces of Isen. Get up into the back of the base, start putting some fire on his power. But Isen pulls his comm off whatever he was building to offer support. Looks like Kray's Chariot is going to retreat. It's his only real option, especially with Arma offering support. But a slight push now from Black Death on the left-hand side of the map. And you can see Arma's actually up to T2. He has some anti-air up already, which is necessary at this stage in time. Well, I suppose they have one air factory up now for Kray's Chariot. But Kray's Chariot has also hit T2, so very quick tech happening on this. It's not surprising at all, being as that they're not hampered by mass in any way. You can see T2 out also for Isen, who's currently pumping out pillars, which is definitely the right choice on this map. It wouldn't be spamming Mongoose. Black Death looking slightly run over here with his forces. A large force from Arma and Isen, but Kray's Chariot pulling in to the rescue. And there's some T2 building going on down here. So we've got some TAC missile launches coming out from Kray's Chariot. He's queued up quite a lot of them. And that could be very interesting to see if he goes for a snipe. See any kind of TAC missile defense. And Isen is currently on an upgrade. I shouldn't think that'll take too long to do. But it is going to mean he's very static for the meanwhile. And if they get a read on that, that could be problem. See some TAC missile defense up for Arma, but Isen completely unprepared at the moment. See if Kray's Chariot gets a good read on who he needs to go to for that. You can see the first round of missiles will be finishing very soon. It doesn't take many to deal with the commander, as many of you will know. Sure, will 2 do it? Perhaps answers in the comments section below. Unupgraded commander, how many TAC missiles does? You see the first volley off. Does he know? They're going straight for Isen's comm, who's just finished an upgrade. Will he move it? Oh, you need to move it. No! Isen ejected early from the game. And of course, auto share is off on this. So while this immediately been transferred, that is promptly all going to pop. So it's not like Armageddon is going to be able to come back. And more TAC missiles coming in, going after power generators and what have you. Oh, there. So that looks like it's going to be a very nice early quick win for Deathlys Rage. And poor Isen just not quite prepared to deal with that. You see the Ilshavas doing what they can for Arma, thinning out the forces of Black Death very nicely, but he's just not going to be able to keep up with the spam of 2 of their players. And a bug also being built, half built in fact. So this game effectively over, and it looks like it's definitely going to be a win for Deathlys Rage. Very nice snipe there from Kray's Chariot. Always interesting to see an early game snipe. And that is still what I think is special about Forged Alliance over other strategy games. You know, there are so many different ways to win, which cannot be said for for all strategy games, not in the slightest. And that bug is now online. And promptly heading over. And you can see the teamwork that's gone into this. Black Death, well aware that Crazed Chariot needs the extra power, so promptly donated all this. And you've got to love that. Unselfish teamwork, and see anything that's going to be able to deal with that. So that's going to be Arma against Com as well. And he's like, oh my god. Very, very nice teamwork there from Deathlys Rage, and they take game 1. You can't help but be impressed with that. So we will promptly, without further ado, move on to game 2. But incredibly exciting game there. And you've got to think, I've got to be a little bit surprised about how the games have worked out so far in this tournament for Arma and Isen. I mean, on paper, at the beginning of this, I was trying to work out who I liked for winning this whole thing. And I tell you, Arma and Isen were not far from the top. You know, pretty seasoned players, and I love watching them both when they ladder. But obviously, there's huge variables in this, and this is not a slight at all against Deathlys Rage. I mean, they've been superb so far. So, you know, you just go with your old favourites, I guess. Obviously, Armageddon doing fantastic in the Imber Cup, getting to the final, and then losing to the director Luzon, having already beat Luzon in an earlier match as well, and relegating Luzon to the losers bracket, who then had to fight through all those extra matches only to come up against Arma again in the final and win. I think he won 4-1. And of course you can catch all that action on my channel if you go back and look for the Imber Cup Grand Final. So that is all there for posterity. So anyway, without further ado, taking a look at the next match, it's 2 hills, and it's the losers, Arma and Isen, chose to pit Armageddon up against Crazed Chariot. So this is a must-win for Arma and Isen. Armageddon rocking the FIM once again, as he likes to do. And Crazed Chariot, this time FIM also. So nice to see him switching up races to benefit himself as best he can. But yeah, nothing unusual, no early crazy maneuvers or anything. We've got an air factory that is under construction for Arma. So actually almost identical builds at the opening for this. Crazed Chariot following suit, queuing up an air factory also. It's a much more standard match, this kind of thing, this standard 1v1. It's a very interesting map, this as well, with these, being as it's 2 hills, you've got these 2 plateaus. And a lot of the action gets centered around the middle, but people forget about these side channels. You get continuous raiding parties popping up on either side. So it has been so far on this tournament. I've seen the last one, actually, that I casted, there was, I forget who it was now, but I think it was Napalm, was trying a very ambitious, from the YouTube style, was trying a very ambitious wall off. He was playing up at this section, he was trying to wall off down here. It would have been a lot more sensible perhaps to try and wall off up here, or even as Brainfart did, or it was Brainwash, one of the Brain Bunch, was walling off just around the side of his base, just to prevent these run-bys into the back and keep the action focused on the middle. But Armageddon anyway moving his commander up to the middle, getting a couple of land factories up and running, and pretty much exactly the same happening from Crazed Chariot. There really isn't a lot of diversity in tactics for this map. We've seen all the teams play it pretty much the same manner. Once again, lovely use of the combat scouts for Armageddon, but in terms of air initiative, it does look like Crazed Chariot has been getting a little bit of the drop on Armageddon. You can see 1 or 2 engineers having gone down already. But Armageddon recovers quickly, gets those shot down, has a couple of bombers up of his own. But how much damage they can do. Nice little bit of micro there from Crazed Chariot to save that engineer. So 5 factories up and running for Crazed Chariot, the forward section, 4 up and running for Armageddon, with the 5th one on the way. So literally play for play so far. Nothing to judge between these two players. Like slightly more units here for Armageddon, and 4 or 5 engineers getting caught by light artillery there. It's quite a costly little exchange for Crazed Chariot. Very nicely done from Arma. Sort of get these marauding groups of engineers just going around sucking up all the trees and rocks, getting all that reclaim. Crazed Chariot was a little unlucky to get those units so squashed. Radar system going up for Crazed Chariot. Now has 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 factories up and running. Completion of that one. It's nearly double what Arma has up at the front, but of course it's got a lot back at base as well. But I don't know, a lot more production capability, it would seem, on the face of it for Crazed Chariot, who's now making a pretty significant push with FAMs, and Arma loses a lot of reclaiming engineers. Not what he wanted to do at all. Quick PD, hastily constructed by all those engineers, but taking a lot of losses of those ones as well. If I was Arma, I would back those up. He doesn't have a lot of troops at hand, and this is a pretty significant force from Crazed Chariot, wreaking all kinds of havoc. That seems like a pretty costly exchange for Armageddon, so it's pretty back and forth. You can see he's got a nice set of PD up and running to protect this little group of mass points. Obviously the run-bys have been so crucial in this on other matches, but there's still a significant portion of troops here for Crazed Chariot, and they're just running through, taking out more engineers, power generators, and units for Armageddon, and this is just brutal. Kind of surprised that Armageddon has been caught off guard to that extent and allowed that much damage. So many T1 power gens going up. More engineers about to go down. And for a run-by, that attack should not have been allowed to have that much impact. Armageddon just focusing far too much on engineers in the early game, not getting enough troops out. And that has cost him, and that could cost him the game. But, you know, at this level, very fine margins decide these games. 2 FAMs still alive for Crazed Chariot. Taking out 2 more engineers, they're still going. And you can see the amount of spam that Crazed Chariot has now. I mean, admittedly, he has a lot more production. That's where it's come from. And he's actually building fighter bombers, the Nothas. So he could be lining up for another snipe. He's got quite a few of them already. I mean, there's very little Armageddon's going to be. He's not going to be ready for that at all, being as that everything he's facing at the moment seems to be pretty much, you know, pointing towards superior ground offensive. So very nice mixing up from Crazed Chariot. Armageddon does have a T2 PD. Obviously concerned about any more of those attacks. Question is, how many fighter bombers does he have? Looks like he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think about 7 or 8. There's about Mercies, I forget. I suppose it depends on how many passes you get at the com, but if he gets enough damage put on him, he's absolutely surrounded now by the units from Crazed Chariot, getting some veterancy, but in come the fighter bombers. So much damage, and Armageddon down to 2,000, 1,500 HP, 900, 600, and there he goes. And Deathlys Rage take the second game, and that was the last game that they played. So very nicely done. Armageddon says shit. I just superbly played by Crazed Chariot. Very entertaining to watch. It just looked like in that entire match the initiative was never with Arma and Isen. Crazed Chariot, a couple of brilliant snipes. I suppose it's technically not a snipe, but on that second one. But I mean, to all intents and purposes, it was. Because the driving factor, obviously, you hadn't have gone for those fighter bombers, that would never have happened. But lovely early game pressure, followed up by nice little tech switch into air, and job done. And Deathlys Rage take the match. They didn't play the third game, unfortunately, so that will be where we're at. If we take a look at the standings, though, this is going to be exactly the same sheet that I showed you last time, so you may well have been aware of this result had you paid attention to my last video, but I do apologize, but it's kind of hard. You still want to give the you know, the best information that you can at the end of these videos, so you can see how crucial the matches in red, as I said before, are the ones that are still left to be played, and that's 3 groups that it will affect those games. So we really hope they get those in. You see Arma and Isen 1 point. So so if Kiss My Ass gets so where are we at? Yeah, so if Kiss My Ass lose to Vini Vidi Air Snipe, then Vini Vidi Air Snipe will qualify. If they win, it'll go 1 point apiece, and it'll go down to win-loss ratio and a whole lot of complicated stuff to see who actually qualifies for Pool 2. So we'll just have to see, but it's a really exciting game to watch that. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I certainly did, and the minute we have more games to bring you, don't worry, we will be bringing them straight to you. But for now, that is me signing off.